Hi guys, this is Michelle Samuels for White Goals ID, and today is a fantastic topic. We're going to talk about love. This is one of the ones that I am just really looking forward to. Okay, so we're talking about love. Is it an investment or what is it? Because I was actually looking at the topic to look at it from an investment disinvestment standpoint or divestment standpoint and to align it appropriately with how a company operates. But I think we have to pull back from that thought and just look at it from an investment standpoint, or is it going to be potentially a loss? Now, the first thing that we want to assess is what is an investment and why do people actually go into the love aspect of it. So I did some research around love, and love has nothing to do with money at all. That's that, and it's really at the foundation of it. There's a lot of sexual innuendos. Yeah, sexual innuendo. So it's really about how the person feels physically and sexually in terms of their attraction to the next person. However, there were some changes that occurred with love, and it was connected to for the love of money and I guess certain religious thoughts around love and so on. And it's only logical because if you think about love, you have to think about the cost aspect of it. What price are you paying? What is the? It's not really a return on investment because true story. Somebody said that to me at one point. They wanted to invest in me. And although I can appreciate the term, obviously, and I can, look at the term, I know the meaning of the term, and I understood what they said, but they said they wanted to invest in me, but the way they said it, it was like, I want to invest in you. I said the potential in you, but I want a return on my investment. And from my viewpoint, I mean, on the basis of the love aspect of it, I don't think there was enough of a connection between me and the person to be able to say, yeah, definitely invest in me, which was a shocker to them because they were in a position to invest quite easily. They had access to the resources. It was just very simple for them. But for me, it was basically a situation where I had to look at what I wanted as a person, and is this person trustworthy to be investing in any aspect of my life, and are we aligned on some level appropriately, which if it's an investment, what is the long term aspects of it, what is the timeline that they would expect their return on investment, and what are the expectations of the return. And this is a total disregard for any challenges or any diversions that may happen on the life journey or on the path. There was no discussion around it. But because the other person was in a very good position financially, well, this is what I gather. They just looked at my situation. They having, doing my studies and all that, and looking like I have the potential to go somewhere. They wanted to invest in me, maybe from an overall standpoint, but starting with the financial. So I said, no, don't. And they were shocked because if it was any, well, quite a few other people, they would have just easily said, okay. And I was offered a lot of gifts. Well, not a lot, but some substantially pricey things. And I thought to myself, I can't take that. So why didn't I take it? I didn't take it because I wasn't sure about the alignment. I needed time to show me the qualities in the person and to see if, we were aligned. Because when you're running a business, or if you're some, you know, driving force behind a corporation, let's say you have an investment opportunity or a merger that must take place, you really have to assess the cultural dynamics of both companies or businesses, and to see if are they equally aligned in the direction of the goals that you want to achieve. It can be financial, but the cultural aspects of it or the social aspects of it or how the individual companies from a people perspective operate can really like put a, what is it called, like a screwdriver in the whole thing. It can be very destructive. So you can get the financial benefit of it, but when you implement the strategy after the merger, what happens is there's just a loss. So I always go back to the fact that, not go back, move forward to the fact that it's important for you to understand, overstand, inner stand, upper stand, any stand you want to take on it. You need, to know yourself, the direction you want to go, and also to be able to make wise, diligent, and to use your discernment in certain situations. Because if if or when rather you identify the gifts in yourself, what happens is, you'll have a lot of different opportunities that comes your way as an individual. So you have to be able to identify, is this an opportunity I want to move on, and does it make sense? And opportunities will pop up that you just didn't expect at all. So the question is, what are you going to do when those opportunities show up? And as you start to move to a new level in yourself in terms of advancing, whether it is, just care for self, understanding self, moving to the financial aspects of growth and so on, you're going to attract a totally different type or set of people that you wouldn't necessarily have thought you would have attracted before, but you find yourself in a scenario attracting people who are progressive, competitive, who, look for opportunities in others to create wealth and so on. And this goes back to relationships as well. So when you're looking for a relationship, you want to be aligned on a certain level, but you have to know what your core values are. What do you actually want for yourself from an investment standpoint in you, not investment standpoint from anybody else's perspective. Yes, that will come into the picture, but how much are you willing to invest in you, and what actually caters to and satisfies your needs, and what challenges do you perceive that you're able to overcome in the pursuit of the dreams that you want. Because no matter who the individual is, nobody really wants to be alone. There are times people will go into hermit mode, some people will withdraw, some people will go through, healing, some people will not choose to be alone, but circumstances cause them to be alone, or the majority of the energy that they're pushing into whatever direction is not about connecting with others on an intimate level, or it's intimate but only, occasionally or whatever. It's just the minority aspect of it. But when we're looking at investment and love, let's say there's a correlation between the two. Well, obviously, because love can't pay the bills. It depends on, very, I guess maybe some charities would be accommodating, but even then they have to find the resources. Love can't pay the bills. And at the end of the day, most people, no matter who it is, most people, well, it depends on the design of the person, because some people want people to actually contribute to the household on a level that they don't go out and they find the resources, while there are other people who, they the majority will look at it like, I have to be aligned with somebody that I can advance with financially, especially. So when they're looking at the situation and they're saying, I need to align myself, this is not sometimes even a choice, because the design of the society is one which sometimes you're going for even a mortgage. And yes, you can get certain mortgages, like you can get a student and you qualify at a single pay range, but at what level can you actually cover that income? So it's like if you're not really strong, or if you don't take decisive action in some environments, what happens is it's almost like you're forced to connect with somebody else on a level that is financially the premise for the connection. And this just goes back to an overall approach to just survival as well. So you have to ask yourself sometimes, when opportunities are in front of you, do you want to actually stay in a connection with this person? Because what are your values are? Where are you operating from? Because it makes no sense trying to use the other person, and then when you get to a position where you can move forward, what you do is that you say, okay, I don't need you anymore. I actually want to move on to something better. But the qualities that have been shown in that specific person when it comes on to certain things, you have to do an assessment of that and ask, does this person represent the type of, not idealism, but the personality that is able to overcome challenges, that will stand by when things are actually down? Because anybody can be there for you when things are up. Anybody can be there for you when they see potential in you. Anybody can be there for you when they want to invest in you and they think they can get a return on their investment. But what about the times when you're going through the struggles and things aren't right, and or you invest and it just doesn't work out and you have to start all over again? What are you gonna do then? You're gonna find somebody else that you can align with and be strategic, use them, and then move on to the next one. It happens. It really does. So this is not a judgment, but I'm just saying, if we're looking at elevating ourselves past a certain way of thinking and to be more aligned with people who are within our, for lack of a better word, our tribe, or really not tribe, but connecting with people that can spiral us in the direction of our greater self. But investment does and love doesn't necessarily mean that it aligns in the direction of greater self and financial accomplishment. The money will come automatically one way or the other, because if you elevate yourself to a mindset and a thinking pattern, or just understanding your environment on a better level, you can be more strategic and make better decisions. So when some people come on the path, you just definitely like, it's a no go for me. And some people, even if you're selective, you still have to take the time to like figure them out, like what who they really are deep down, and does that align with you? And you trying to figure them out from that perspective, because everybody can wear a mask and put on, they can actually tell the person whatever they want to. That sounds good at the time. But the greater distinction between the person that you were and the person you want to become is that you're not necessarily watching the person because you expect them to fail. You're not watching the person because you're saying, oh well, my insecurities push me to think that I'm gonna lose. You're watching the person because you understand, overstand, understand, whatever stands on some level, that if you two stay together, it's not good for either one of you or anybody else. It will only work to a point. So, and new things may pop up in the relationship that you probably never experienced before with another person or any other persons. And then sometimes new things pop up, and it's a question of, how are you going to really handle this? What is your, you say you have certain values, but when it comes down to it, do you respect people's freedom of choice? Do you respect the fact that, they may like something that you don't? And how you can accept them if there's some monetary value or there's some gain? But when there's no monetary value or gain, would you accept that person's likes and dislikes, or would you be willing to relook at yourself, look at your priorities, and ask yourself, is this really something to panic about and get the f out of there? For me, like getting that, like just getting out of there, I've done that. I've been like, once I see any possibility of something happening this is in the past, I'm out, mate. I'm gone. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for it. I'm not facilitating it. That was the personality that I had previously, but no, I've grown as a person. So some directions I just don't go at all. I don't accommodate, I don't facilitate, I don't negotiate, because it's obvious that it's not a match. And sometimes you can match on one level and you don't match on other levels. So the question is, how do you actually realign being the proper match based on you changing or improving yourself or keeping who you are because there are core value connections between you and the other person, and actually being patient, like patient with yourself. And this is something that most people don't do. It's very easy to say, okay, I'm in love. I want to start investing on some level, or I don't want to invest at all. I'm just going in and out. And then once the opportunity presents itself, I will just get what I need to get and use the other person. And my return on investment is my own pleasure. That's okay. If your return on investment is your own pleasure, no problem. But then at the same time, there is a problem that actually stems from the no problem aspect of it, which is maybe somewhat illogical. And the problem is that at the end of the day, is wouldn't it be best that the other person is clear on the fact that you're gonna bounce in a minute, or you're in it for your own pleasure? But sometimes it's difficult to be very clear on the fact that, even if you're clear with someone, some people, you tell them a million times that, you know what, I'm here for my own pleasure, but they don't believe it. But sometimes when people actually use words, it's necessary it's not necessary, but it's a thought to be observed and listened to for truth. And if there's truth in it, then there's nothing you can do to determine what the other person's actions are. So when we're looking at love and investment, it's really a business move. And it's a business move because once you start to invest, the relationship can start moving in a direction of legal obligations. Investment doesn't necessarily mean money alone. Money is a part of it, but legal obligations in terms of if you and the person are going to make decisions around the relationship, investing in the way the society is designed, so as to accumulate assets or to accumulate certain financial gains individually as well as a team. So you have to put protection mechanisms in place. Or if you don't put those protection mechanisms in place, then you have to it's a thought for you to have that discussion with the other person. We're not having any protection mechanisms in place. But for me, I just think it's just it's normal. Because if you're looking at life from an advanced way, sometimes, if the other person and you are aligned on the same level, legal obligation and discussions around return on investment from a legal obligation standpoint is okay to occur because there's an honesty there. There's agreement there. If there are any gaps, it can be discussed. Not everything will be covered, obviously. Not necessarily, depending on the who your advisors are. But another problem is that some people, they project into the future, but they're projecting with their present selves. So if you're projecting into the future with your present self, automatically you're gonna assess the situation on the basis that you are who you are at that point in time. And who you are at that point in time doesn't necessarily mean that's who you're gonna be in the future. You could be a lesser version of self because of circumstances, people, or even self, mostly self. Or you can be a higher version of yourself. Me, projection wise, I look at the possibility that it would be a higher version of myself because I give myself enough trust to be able to say, you know what, I'll be able to grow. But the more you grow, it's like the more life sends some challenges your way that you're thinking, I was not prepared for this one. And that is life telling you that you've moved to a higher level, or you have to choose which direction you're going. You have to choose. It's either you're keeping on the path and you're going straight ahead and you're not carrying no baggages, or you understand that you select very carefully, and it's not a baggage, it's just a term. So basically you select very carefully who you're going to align yourself with. Now, what can this, well, not destroy, but what can really throw people off the path is that some people think they can actually project precisely that if somebody's in a financial position that is fantastic at this point in time, that they will be in that financial position in the future. For me, that's ludicrous. Why? Because at the end of the day, no matter how financially set an individual is, economic factors will change the value that is attached to the money that they have if they don't use smart investment strategies or actually acknowledge those aspects of economic factors like taxation, inflation, loss of value of the money, exchange rates, all those things, production and output in a country, political decisions, changes to migratory patterns, opportunities in different locations. So having that discussion with the person is what do you actually want? But sometimes people have the discussion too early. Sometimes the approach may be wrong. Sometimes people say they will commit on a certain level and they end up not doing it. Sometimes they have a change in circumstances. So you want to select you in yourself. Investing in yourself is one of the most important things because you have to have some protection for yourself from the uncertainty and the risk of investing in others. It doesn't even matter if it's family, friend, relationship, or even your children. Do you understand? Because investing in, like some parents invest in their children with a specific expectation, and those expectations don't come to fruition for some because they didn't understand fully the design of the child, one, and they didn't understand the environment. They were just going along with what they thought was best at the time. And then by the time the child, and when the child is older now, they can't actually fulfill that because time has passed and change has occurred. And the parent is sometimes still in the old mindset and putting pressure on the child because they think, well, I invested in you and you didn't deliver the specific way that I thought you would within the timeline I thought you would. So my return on investment. So what I'm going to do is react a certain way and be disappointed and so on. But the child may be coming to realization of self and going in a different direction. And what is important is the core values from which you operate as a parent. And some parents deviate from those values because they're angry, disappointed, or they think, oh, well, why they're comparing themselves to other parents and their children, not realizing the greatness in the child that is in front of them, but actually so adamant about their own expectations for return on investment within a timeline. And this goes for relationships too. Some relationships is just a straight up loss. And sometimes it's repetitive, like it's just like a cycle of going over and over again into a different scenario, a different face, but it's a similar energy, it's a similar personality. And the only person that can break that cycle is you. And that means that you must protect yourself investment wise, because if you're investing in yourself, then you will take certain risk. But if you take certain risk, you'd be cognizant of, what I'm taking this risk, but at the same time, what am I going to get out of it? Or if I don't get what I expect out of it and it's a loss, what do I learn from it? And how do I handle it from an emotional standpoint? Because when the connection between love and investment, we're talking about looking and exploring certain categories like financial growth, exposure, networking. We're looking at general information like asset and accomplishment and reputation, all kinds of things. So when we're looking at those different categories, you know, to it doesn't even matter how old you are. Some people invest a lifetime into their marriages, connections, and they wake up realize that, you know what, I did this investment move, and I've gotten all I wanted return on investment wise, but I don't have the balance. I've lost myself on the journey. What are you gonna do then? Time's passed. I definitely believe people can always bounce back, no matter what the age is. The mindset. But the reality is that sometimes, the energy that you had before on a physical level, you'd have to really do some work to build that back up. And if there are any damages that, like to your health or whatever, some can't be corrected. So even if you have the intention, it just doesn't work out. But anything is possible. I'm very adamant and I believe in possibilities. So if somebody tells me that, the person says maybe, I say yes, there's a chance. But it doesn't really look good. But yeah, there's a chance. That's all I need, a chance. A chance that there's a possibility. But some people keep losing every time in love. Love doesn't have anything to do with losses. Love doesn't have anything to do with money. Do you understand? It's a physical decision and an emotional decision. And in some cases, it could be a religious decision because they're connected back to religion. It's like you want to think about separating the love aspect of it from the financial. And the way that you actually do that is to understand that that is emotion. But if you can't separate your emotion from your logic, it's going to be very dangerous, because if the love situation is up and down, or if it's really high, you may be inclined to be influencing the other decisions from an investment standpoint. And some investments that you go into when you're connected in a love connection, and this is love, family, friend, it could be children, anything at all. We want to talk about love mostly from a relationship standpoint, though. So if you're going into any connection and at the end of the day, you don't guard yourself, or you don't assess the situation, or you're on the constant tangent of not learning from your situations. You have to learn at some point. You have to be clear on who you are at some point, and you won't be totally clear. So that there must be that little, not a gap, but that little area where you know that you're growing and changing, and you establish that to the other person too. Because if you don't come with clarity, even when you have that legal obligation, you don't come with clarity to the other person to say, I'm growing, I'm changing, I'm learning, and hopefully we can grow together. But some people want people to grow together specifically like how they are. So they say, oh, well, we didn't grow together. But then at the end of the day, maybe the open-mindedness is important too. Some people just like the control element. I've been there with the control element, but I've let that go to a certain degree. To a certain degree. Because something's just out of your control. So when they say you're losing in love, some women will, not women alone, and men, people stay in relationships because they think they're gonna lose financially. But the cost that they pay to the other people, children, family, to their own not even reputation, but how they feel about themselves, the destruction of themselves. They have all this material wealth and all that, but the material wealth don't give you the physical and emotional satisfaction. Sometimes there is no physical connection at all after a time. And I'm very adamant that, physical is important. If the attraction isn't, it's like you can't have a garden and you don't water it. You can't have a garden and you don't take care of it. But when summertime comes, you want to see all the flowers out and you want to see the green, green grass of home. Or green, green grass of home. I think that's a song. So we don't take liability for that song. But we're just basically saying that, whatever you have to care for it. But some people think caring for, all right, some people, and this is so key right now to end on this, well, basically end. You have an investment, you put into the investment, you don't check the investment. You have a long-term investment. You don't look at it for years. You're just trusting that you invested. You've handed it over the responsibility to the person you invested in and the other people who are connected. You don't do anything due diligence wise. Well, not due diligence because you're already in, but you have to do your due diligence, continuous checks to be able to um, know the changes that have come in. You haven't checked it. All of a sudden, the investment isn't even around. You don't even know what happened to the investment. Destroyed, disseminated, because you didn't pay attention to it. Although other factors can influence that, the fact that it's not there. You were losing and you didn't even see it. And then when it's totally gone, that's when you're reflecting and you're saying, oh my God, how did this happen? It happened because you weren't paying attention. And you put money into something, or you put your time or your energy or your effort, but you weren't paying attention. You weren't checking it. You weren't nurturing it. You weren't trying to grow it. You weren't trying to move it. Obviously, some investments you can't move, but you weren't really paying attention. You just let go. When you invest in something, you have to check on it. You have to nurture it. You have to take care of it. And if the changes show up, a discussion needs to be had around it, or you have to put the necessaries in place to safeguard the investment or change the investment because changes have come. So you want to choose very carefully who and what you're connected to. But remember, I'm going to close on this right now and say to you, investment in yourself is more important, and that does not apply to everybody because a lot of people respond differently to things. But remember, once you understand yourself, you can make wiser decisions about where to put what, who to put what with, who to connect with, who to choose to go on the journey with. It's almost like a minimization of the risk. But you cannot guarantee an outcome. So the mindset that you're in, investing in the growth of yourself and the understanding and the knowledge that you have, is more important than anything else, and being up to date with what your decisions are, how your investments are moving. And this does not mean money alone. This means family connections, networks, and some prior investments you just have to walk away from and dissolve. And if you don't have the character strength to be able to do that, and sometimes it could be a temporary walking away as well, because you can walk away and then you're not invested in something. Family, let's say family, you disconnect from the family because it's necessary for you to do what you have to do for yourself, our friends, our network, and then you reassess yourself and then you go back in stronger, or maybe uninvested, but still uninvested financially, but invested on a different level, connection wise and so on. So we're going to close this video right now and say, everybody that's looking for love out there, or not looking for love but in a situation of love, and they've decided, is love about investment or loss? Yes, it definitely has nothing to do with either one. However, from a survival and reality standpoint, it is correlated in terms of saying that we have to think about the financial aspects of life and the other core aspects that help us to elevate to the higher levels. And who are we gonna do with that? With which channels, which funnels, and how are we gonna approach it from a logical decision making standpoint? So I'm Michelle Samuels. Thank you so much for listening, and really excited as you